Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope all of you are doing well today. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you some tips for making a channeling session more clearer and more stronger. Now I've kind of given some of these tips before in my video for how to connect more deeply with Santa Muerte and how to communicate with Santa Muerte, but this is just a general video. So I'm gonna make it specific here. So one of the ways to make a channeling session more clear and stronger is to cleanse the space before you channel. You know, if you live in a space or channel in a space, there's always going to be energy already there. Energy is everywhere. And especially if you're doing it in your home, a space that is traveled through, like if you're channeling in your office, in your bedroom, in your living room, these are living areas, these are high traffic areas. And all the thoughts you think as you go about your day, all the things you do, all the music you listen to, all the media you consume, all of that throws out energy. And all that energy is kind of just floating around the room really. And it can kind of muddy up the energy in a room. And so before you channel, you want to cleanse the area. You want the room, you want the energy to be clear and bright so that you can be able to channel very clearly and so that the channel can be very strong. So to cleanse the area, you can do it by smudging. You can ring a bell, the vibrations of the bell, or using singing bowls to cleanse a space. You can clap. You can cleanse a room or an area by clapping, although I've never been good at clapping in as far as cleansing goes. You can spritz Florida water all through the room. You can say prayers. You can call on certain beings to cleanse and consecrate the space. You can cast a circle, which is more of a pagan thing, which basically means you walk around the room in a circle, kind of, in order to create a space that's cleansed and clear so that you can do a working inside of without being disturbed. There's any number of ways to cleanse a space, to clean a space. Another thing is to physically clean the space. So physically cleaning the space is very important because when you have clutter, when you have trash around you, when you have dirt, you have dirty clothes laying around, you have like old cans of soda or anything like that, or if things are just kind of disheveled, or unkempt, that kind of stuff, it really does affect the energy in an area. So it can kind of stifle the energy a little bit. So a lot of clutter attracts negative energy, and having too much clutter around you can create pockets of negative, stagnant, or even like dead energy, which is basically when the energy loses all like life and vitality to it. And all that kind of stuff, it really drains the room. It brings down the energy in the room, and it can have a drain on you physically because that kind of energy isn't really good for the human body to be in anyway, energetically speaking. So by physically cleaning the room, sweeping the room, wiping tables down, dusting, putting things away, organizing things, all of that really does make a big difference on an energetic level. And then it's like halfway. The other half is energetically cleansing, which again, smudging, ringing a bell, clapping, wiping things down with spiritual colognes, Florida water, holy water, things like that. All of this is used for cleansing. So physically cleansing and energetically cleansing is a really good way to set the room so that the environment itself isn't kind of acting as a block to your channeling session. Another thing is to bathe. Now, you don't have to bathe, but ritual bathing, ritual cleansing, when you go and take a bath or a shower with the intent that it is cleansing you for the act of being pure before a ritual or a spiritual practice, is very potent and it's a very powerful practice. So you can either draw a bath where you fill it with like salts, like Himalayan salts, rock salt, sea salt, Epsom salts. You can put some oils in there, spiritual colognes, flower petals, plant leaves, whatever you want. Or you can simply just draw a bath with warm water, cold water, whatever floats your boat, and just pray over it, say a chant over it, or speak your intention into the water, whatever you do in your practice. And by doing so, you kind of empower the water. You can even do this with your shampoo. Believe it or not, you can empower shampoos and conditioners to have a certain effect on your body. Same thing with soaps. And basically, by cleansing yourself, before you perform a spiritual practice, your energies will be a lot more cleansed, a lot more aligned. Another thing to do is, again, same thing, bracing yourself off with Florida water, holy water. Another thing you can do is grounding yourself. Now, grounding yourself is when you go outside. Well, it's most potent, it's most powerful if you do it outside, but you don't have to do it outside. Grounding is when you just relax yourself and you connect yourself to the energies of the earth. You allow the earth to kind of absorb all of the negative energy in your body, in your energetic field, all the thoughts, worries, things like that. You let it absorb into the earth, and then you draw in energy from the earth to kind of center and ground yourself in who you are and where you are in the present moment, so that you'll be much more successful at having a stronger channeling session. Another thing you can do is um, avoiding stimulation before channeling. This means avoiding listening to a lot of music, a lot of like avoiding listening to like, and I don't mean meditation music. I mean like just top 40, like regular music. Like you don't want to listen to that because music puts you in different mental spaces. And if you try to go into a meditative state after listening to music, sometimes the music will start to play, or you'll hear like echoes of the music, and you don't want that. You don't want to listen to music, watch movies, watch shows, go on Facebook, scroll through TikTok, watch YouTube shorts. You don't want to do anything like that if you can help it, because all of that kind of wires your brain for having a short attention span, and you want to kind of calm your brain, and all that kind of stuff kind of leaves you overly stimulated, and it'll leave your brain kind of zipping around really quickly because it kind of wires you for that kind of hypersensitivity, like really strong stimulation type of thing, which you don't want if you're trying to, go into a meditative state. Now, on the opposite end of that is you don't want to, or you do want to consider listening to meditative music. Usually, not usually guided meditations. If I know I'm going to channel, I don't really want anything that I feel could potentially influence what I'm about to do. Usually I would rather just listen to very ambient, like ambiance type of music, like white noise, or like very peaceful, spiritual, like melodic, relaxing, tranquil type of nature sounds, or relaxing music, more like that type of stuff, to kind of get me in a very calm and subdued mental state so that I can be more open and really more receptive to what is going on around me and what messages could I potentially receive during a channeling session. Another thing to do is to avoid eating any heavy meals beforehand. Now, I'm not asking you to fast or anything like that, but avoiding things like sugar, caffeine, things that kind of hype you up. You don't really want to do that before doing channeling or meditation, because it'll really it'll make it harder to sit still. It'll have your mind racing, heart will be beating, you'll have a lot of adrenaline and like that really strong energy going, when you need the opposite. You need to be very calm and tranquil and relaxed. And it's hard to feel serene when your pulse is racing and you're ready to just jump out of your skin. So avoiding, excess sugar, caffeine, things like that before trying to channel is a really good idea. Another thing is to avoid eating heavy meals, especially very unhealthy meals that leave you feeling gross, lethargic, groggy, stuff that makes you feel sleepy, stuff that gives you a really just not good feeling because you ate just a bunch of fried food or gross food, or foods that just sit really heavy on your stomach, stuff with a lot of oils in it. I don't usually eat before I do a channeling session, because if you do, so the thing is, when you eat too much of that heavy kind of food, it kind of hampers you down energetically a little bit. It kind of puts a damper on everything. It's strongly suggested that you don't eat anything heavy before you try to astral project, because it makes your energy body so heavy that you kind of struggle to get out of your body. It can make it way harder. And I feel like it kind of translates a little bit to, other types of situations like meditation or channeling. So again, that still kind of bogs down the energy body, and you want your body to be clear and open and bright. You don't want it to, you don't want to be feeling sluggish and like really groggy when you're going into a channeling session. Another thing is to make sure you are not going to be disturbed. You know, like I don't live by myself, and when you don't live alone, you run the risk of having distractions around you. If you live in a neighborhood that's very loud, I used to live in a neighborhood that was extraordinarily loud. The neighbors kept up noise. People blasting music, children screaming and playing outside, people yelling at their kids, people using lawnmowers and power tools like all day long. And it was a nightmare for me because how could I meditate? How could I channel? How could I do really anything? So be aware of your surroundings and, kind of gauge when it would be the best time. When can you work without being disturbed? You know, sure, you can channel while your whole family's home, but maybe trying to channel for that 1 hour in the morning when everybody's gone while you have the home to yourself, maybe that would be a better time. Just kind of choose an appropriate time where you're less likely to be disturbed if you're going to channel, especially if you have time to plan it out beforehand. That would be best. Now, speaking of planning it out beforehand, one really good thing to do would be to write down all the questions you have. Now, if you were just free channeling, then that's different. So, like, I might go to my higher self and I might write down the question, just the one question. Or maybe I won't write down a question at all, but I will have a pen and paper handy. Always absolutely be prepared with a pen and paper or a way to record yourself speaking if that's the way you're channeling. But I always absolutely have a notebook handy, and I have a designated notebook just for writing down channeling sessions. So what I will do is I'll sit down with the notebook and I will just ask out loud, higher self, what messages do you have for me? And I will just write down, and I will write and write and write and write until I feel like I've written enough. The other way is with the questions. Sometimes I will go to some of my patron spirits that I work with and I will ask questions to them. And I have a lot of questions. Sometimes I'll have 30, 40 questions that I will ask in one channeling session. And what I'll do is I will write the questions on the page, and I will write, you know, I will write maybe 4 questions per page. So I'll just have like a question, skip a few lines, question, skip a few lines, question. I'll keep doing that. And I'll do that on multiple pages. So that way the questions are already written down with a space in between so that it leaves me enough lines so that I can write a longer answer if the answer turns out to be long. Sometimes the answer is very, very short, just a few words. Sometimes it's very long and I can't even really fit it into the few lines that I designated for the answer to the question. So, but that's one thing I do. That way I don't have to sit there racking my mind, thinking hard about what did I want to ask, what was I trying to remember, and it'll kind of pull me out of the kind of trance-like state. So, you know, I think it just falls down to being prepared. It comes down to that. So I write down all the questions that I want to ask on a long list. I just kind of rough draft all the questions, and then I will write the final list of questions on paper with spaces in between to leave space for the answers I get during the channeling. So I don't have any real thought. I go down the line, I just ask the question, write down the answer. Ask the question, write down the answer. I do that until I answer all the questions. Usually the last question is, do you have any, random information to share with me? Do you have any messages for me? And I'll just write that down. That's how I usually prepare for a channeling session in regards to the questions. Everyone channels differently. You don't have to do it the way I do it. Another thing is and it comes down, and it's kind of following along what I said earlier about cleansing a space and like clearing it and stuff. So what you're going to be doing is by cleansing and clearing a space, you also want to put up protection, just regular protection, which in a way, cleansing, clearing kind of does clear away the negative energies and the negative parasites that might be lingering nearby, which they're everywhere. They bother everyone. But you don't want one of them to kind of hijack your channeling session and give you the wrong information. So You want to make sure you're connecting to the right, the right being you're trying to get in touch with. You don't want to be talking to some random ghost who just happens by and is bored and wants to bother your channeling session. You don't want to really deal with that. So by doing some basic protections, you'll be able to kind of get more accurate information. And so, also, if you plan on reaching out to a certain being, if they require a certain chant to summon or to connect with, if they have certain sigils and symbols that you're going to use, go ahead and have them printed out or written down already in front of you. You don't want to have to stop what you're doing to look it up and kind of pull you out of the process. Set the tone for the whole channeling session. Dim the lights, light candles, have very, very tranquil music playing in the background if you want to. I usually do it in silence, but I know for some people, it helps them kind of shift into a different mental state, a trance-like state that helps them be more conducive to channeling properly. But if you do play music, play it very low. You don't want it to be distracting at all. You don't have to worry, is this too loud? You're in the middle of trying to channel. Um, and the last thing I will say is absolutely try to not second guess what you're channeling while you're channeling. That will be the number one thing that will mess you up. Like there have been times where I was channeling, especially early on, where I will be writing something down and I will have thoughts about what I'm writing down as I'm writing it down. And I'll be like, oh, that's weird, or that's interesting, or am I making this up? And when you do that, it will absolutely throw you off. And after that, everything that comes out after that will come out muddled. It won't come out quite right. The moment I even feel like an inkling of that kind of a thought trying to come in, I immediately push it out and I just let my mind just become clear like a still pond. And I continue the channeling. Just continue the channeling. It's like I'm not here right now. It's just me and writing. That's all it is. And I find by doing so, it really works. The more often you channel, the better at it you'll get. So channel as often and as frequently as you want to. Also, channeling helps with your clairaudience. So the more you channel, the more better your psychic hearing will get, and eventually, if you can't already hear spirits, you will be able to hear them if you channel enough. Because when you channel, you're going to be hearing your own voice in your head, giving you the information that you're writing down, but eventually you'll start to hear the voice of whoever it is you're channeling. Whether they be angelic and celestial, infernal, a saint, an elemental, whatever they may be. The more you channel, the more your clairaudience is going to grow to the point where you're starting to hear spirits without even having to, even be channeling. And just the last thing, I guess the very, very last thing I want to say is don't doubt your abilities. Don't get in the way of yourself. Don't doubt yourself. Don't sabotage yourself. Especially in the beginning, it can be really hard to, be sure if you're just writing stuff down. Because at first, it really felt like I was just making stuff up. It really felt like I was just hearing my own mind make up stuff and just writing it down. Later on, I found out that it was verified by other people. So it turned out that I was writing down real information, but at first it really felt like I was just making stuff up in my own head, and I felt like I was crazy. I felt like a crazy person. I felt silly, but don't doubt yourself. Don't second guess yourself. No matter how silly, how out there it seems, just go with it. 100% go with it, and 100% believe it. Um, it's not like you have to publish it. It's not like you have to share it with other people. You don't have to post it anywhere. It's just for you. And absolutely designate a book to write down your channeling sessions. Keep it all written down in one place. I have a notebook where I write down the channeling sessions, and I look back at it, and sometimes it's even hard to read my handwriting because when I channel, my handwriting is very neat and very nice. But when I channel, I'm not focused on how it looks, so it's usually looks like a chicken scratch, like scribbles. It's kind of hard to read sometimes, very messy, sloppy handwriting, and that's okay. What I do is I have a second notebook, a really nice notebook, and after I'm done channeling, all the information that's written down sloppily in my regular, spiral bound notebook, I copy it very neatly into my hardbound hardcover notebook for future reference so that I can reference it and all the information I've channeled at my own leisure with the date attached to them. Please date your channeling sessions. So just make sure you have a place to document, and it's best to have a designated book, or it could be a file on your computer. It doesn't have to be a physical book, but just have a designated place so you don't lose track of all the information you channel, and so that you can easily access it to look back on it at a later time. So if you found any of this information helpful, drop a like. If you want to comment, if you feel so moved to comment, then comment. If you want to connect with me through any of my social media accounts, or follow me on any other place, or if you want to support the channel, I have all the links in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck with your channeling journey, and we'll see all of you in the next one. Take care.